Hey gang, Scott here. In this video, I've got a sneak peek of ON1 Resize AI for you. This software has not yet hit the market. It's coming in a couple of weeks. ON1's been talking about it for a little bit, and they were nice enough to let me play around with a pre-release version of the software so I can share it with you, share some impressions, and see what this software is all about. So in this video, we'll cover a few things. What is Resize AI, what makes it new, what makes it interesting, pricing and availability, and I'll go through a couple of examples so you can see the software in action. So let's get into it. So first up, what is Resize AI? This is ON1's photo enlargement software. Upscale a small image to a large image without losing detail, doing it in an intelligent way so you maintain the details that are in the photo and make a large print from a reasonably small image. And it's very impressive. ON1 has been doing this type of work for years, decades really. It is an area of the photo business that they know. It goes all the way back to Genuine Fractals, one of their very first photo products, all about upscaling images and maintaining detail. So, okay, Scott, great, you're telling me about this. What makes Resize AI interesting? What's new about it? I already have an older version of this Resize software. Why would I care about the new one? It really has to do with the new resizing engines they have. They have new AI-based models that are doing the resizing, and these replace the Genuine Fractals models that have been kind of the gold standard in the industry for a long time. They've gotten even better. What makes them unique is these models, they recognize different kinds of textures, tree bark versus concrete versus grass versus human skin, all that kind of thing. And they'll scale things differently, and in some cases add additional details. It would understand what tree bark is and be able to make sure that there are textures that are enhanced and added with some AI smarts so it looks incredibly realistic. And you're getting this boost and improvement in detail, even though you're scaling up a small image. There's some other improvements in the software generally as well. There's some batch processing now, so if you need to do a suite of enlargements across things, you can do that. You can print right from within inside the Resize application if you're using Resize as a standalone product or as a plugin to things like Adobe products or Capture One, and a few other cosmetic things in the UI, a little easier to navigate through dimensions and changes there. We'll get into a little tour of the software in a bit, and I can show you some of those things too. But that's what is interesting about Resize AI. It really is the revamping of the models they use to upscale images. And you'll see in the examples later in this video, the results are impressive. A question you may and probably should ask is, well, why would I want enlarging software? Why do I want something like Resize AI? And I think about this in terms of my photo library. I look at my photo library and I have photos that fit these types of scenarios. Like, I like this photo. I really, really like this photo, but I captured it in 1999 or 2001 on a digital camera that had very low megapixels, 3 megapixels, 4 megapixels, and I'd like to print that large, but I just don't have the resolution. Well, I can upscale it with Resize AI. Or mobile phone photography, same type of thing. Pretty good sensors we have, but they are still on the smaller side. You capture one of these images that you really want and you want to print large and put on the wall, Resize AI will help you out. Another one, if you don't have a telephoto lens, or at least not one that's long enough reach for the image that you wanted, and you crop away what you didn't need and you end up with the subject that you like, and you want to print it large, well, you kind of can't. And so on down the line. Images very early from your digital photography career, maybe you saved them in JPEGs, and they weren't very large because we all started not necessarily knowing that we should save, our archival TIFFs or things. If you've got images like this in your library, you've got images you love and adore, but they're from your older cameras, Resize AI will be able to take that photo and make it large, and you can print a nice big photo and have that memory and share it with friends, family, colleagues, the world. So that's where I see Resize AI fitting into my workflow, and I suspect it can fit into yours too. So let's talk availability and pricing. It's mid-April 2022 as I record this. ON1 Resize AI will be available by the end of April 2022, so just a couple of weeks away here. That is for the standalone ON1 Resize AI product. Standalone operates as its own application or as a plugin to Adobe products, Capture One, and so forth. All of the different plugin ecosystems that ON1 supports as part of their professional plugin series. ON1 Resize AI will be part of that and available by the end of this month. Shortly thereafter, if you're an ON1 Photo Raw 2022 user, ON1 Resize AI will be incorporated into Photo Raw as a free update. So if you're a Photo Raw 2022 user, sit tight. It's coming really soon as a free update. If you're using the professional plugin series, maybe using an older version, look for some availability at the end of this month, and look for some pretty good pricing too. In fact, let's look at pricing. The best source of pricing information is ON1's website itself. You go over to ON1's website, in the plugins area, you'll find Resize AI. All of the information is here. Scroll down toward the bottom is where the pricing is. You've got the options for the standalone product and a pretty good pre-order deal going on right now. The full professional plugin bundle, Resize AI will be part of that when it's available, as well as your cloud subscriptions. Now, I mentioned that if you're a Photo Raw 2022 user, you will see Resize AI be incorporated into the full Photo Raw product as a free update shortly after the standalone product is. Don't have exact guidance on that, but shortly after, to me, that suggests sometime mid-May is my best guess. Don't hold me to that because I'm not certain on it, but that's my vibe from the past iterations of Photo Raw. And also, if you are an ON1 subscriber, you'll get access to the Resize AI product as soon as it's available. Now, what if you already own ON1 products or you own an earlier version of Resize? ON1's website has the answers there too. Let me pull them up here for you. Right beneath the pricing and the frequently asked questions, I'm a product owner. Do I get a free upgrade or not? Well, here are all the details. And basically, if you own Resize 2022, Resize AI is a free upgrade. And if you own previous versions, you get a discount on the upgrade. So you make sure you sign in to your ON1 account to get those additional discounts. So I'm going to scroll back up to the pricing here. You saw earlier, there's this coupon applied. If I go way back to the top of this screen here, notice I haven't signed in. Right? You want to sign in and you'll get some more information and probably see that discount that you're entitled to reflected right away. So that's the details on the availability and the pricing. How about we get into the software, take a look at the new things. I want to highlight a couple of new things, and I'll show you a couple of examples of Resize AI in action. When you first open ON1 Resize AI, you're prompted to open a set of photos. You can drag and drop onto this interface as well. I'll just open this photo here so we can see the layout of the software. Like all of our ON1 software, we have our tools and our presets on the left-hand side, and we have our controls for changing the behavior of the software, the adjustments, the sliders on the right-hand side. What's new in Resize AI is really in these first two panels, photo size and settings. Let's start with photo size. This is where you'll set what the target size for your image is. You've got the details on what the current dimensions are in pixels, and you have a lot of different options on how to resize it to specific dimensions that you might want, setting the long edge or the short edge to a particular dimension, You can set the width to something, the height to something, things like that. Megapixels, that's kind of an interesting one. From my understanding, is this is important to folks that do stock photography, where you have to maximize at a certain megapixel. You can't go higher than that for your output. You have percentage, so you can just upscale it by 50%, make this 150. I'm a big fan of the long edge. That one works really well for me because I'm often targeting a print. Like this photo, right now it's an 8 inches on the long edge, so this part would be 8 inches. What if I want to make an 11 by 14? I can say make the long edge 14 inches and scale the rest. And speaking of scaling, that's the other big change. Like I said at the beginning of this video, in the settings area, we have new methods. There are 2 methods here for Resize AI. Standard and faithful, and this is the magic. This is what is understanding the things that are in this photo. Like looking at this photo here, we've got sky, we've got mountains, we've got tree, we've got grasses. The AI will understand what those elements are, how they are textually different from one another, and scale things up, and in some cases even add in that extra detail that might not have been there if you just scaled it up by itself, using its AI smarts. Used to be genuine fractals back in the day. Bicubic is really, really old. These are here, for backward compatibility, and if you have a need for them, they're there. They're not taken away from the product. The difference between standard and faithful, really, standard is, I guess I'd say it more like this. Faithful is a little less aggressive than standard. So if you do a scaling and for whatever reason there is the amount of additional detail the AI had added, you're like, that's a little bit too much for me. You could back it off to something that's a little tamer with faithful. And you do have a smoothness slider. So if anything looks a little bit too crisp, nudge that smoothness up to take care of it. The rest of these panels are the same in other resize programs. The ones that I use often, sharpening, to just add a level of output sharpening. This is really what you think about. Output sharpening, I kind of like progressive, so that I've compensated for when we lose a little detail when we print out. Well, the output sharpening helps to compensate for that. And the rest of these panels, film grain, you can add grain if you need to. Tiling, if you wanted to do some kind of mural or triptych, you can set all the different types of tiles that you want to have, how big each tile is, how much overlap there is, all sorts of stuff like that. Really interesting things. And gallery wraps. This one's great if you're doing canvas work. You can have your whole photo occupy the center of the canvas, and then say your canvas is got a 1-inch wrap, and you can have that either reflected soft. You can just have it, stretched, kind of like that. I always kind of like the reflected look. Or you could, even dim it with, a bit of an overlay color. It kind of depends on where that canvas is going to sit. If it's going to be sitting inside, like in a floating frame, maybe you just want a dark color on that. But the key thing with this gallery wrap, a cool feature of Resize, it's not new to 2022 or AI, but the fact you can have your whole photo occupy the front of the canvas, you don't lose image to the wrap, that's really, really nice. But to recap the key things here, you've got new and improved options for your resizing itself. And in the settings area, you have these new methods to use the AI smarts. So let's look at this in action now. Let's run through an example. We'll use this photo of the tree here and the Rocky Mountains behind it. So I had said I wanted to do a 11 by 14 print of this. And let's say we make the long edge, 14 inches. Great. This jumps in. Now, as the resize analyzes the photo, you'll see that there go the mountains. They're changing now. And the foreground grasses just changed. As I said, the AI understands these are different things with different textures. Let me treat them a little differently as I scale them up. And so we'll move this over here. And one of the other new features is actually the split screen, right? So I can do a split preview here. And so we can do just kind of like that and see how much detail is not only maintained in like these needles on this tree and the details on the bark, it's actually improved. You can see that in the mountains in the background as well. The left-hand side is the original. The right-hand side is the upscaled version. Something else that it's not as prominent in this photo, but if you have a photo that has a fair amount of noise, the Resize AI models understand noise. They don't just make the noise bigger. They say, oh, I kind of see noise here. Let me downplay it and make sure that I'm not increasing noise. So it is very, very intelligent. And that was a one-click thing, right? That is in the settings area using just the Resize 2022 standard. If I change this to, say, faithful, just to see what happens here, you'll see that it's regenerating, and it gets a little less aggressive on the amount of detail. So you do have some additional control there on how much you want the AI to think about texture and perhaps add in detail. Finishing this one off, I would probably go into sharpening here. Do sharpening. I like the progressive mask, and personally, I like to tame that back a little bit. That works best with my printer, and I'm pretty happy with the results I get from that. And so, that was just a handful of clicks, but let's go back to our big preview here. Before those changes, this was our roughly 8 inches on the long side photo. And then after upscaling it to 14 inches on the long side and getting much more detail, and then zooming that back out so we can see the full breadth of that photo. And now I can go immediately print this. I can launch right into the print module from Resize. If you're using Resize download, the printing is right there. Or if you're a little bit waiting a little bit for that Photo Raw integration, you have Photo Raw printing right there. Of course, you can save this out to TIFF or any other format that ON1 supports. Send it off to your print lab. Why don't we look at one other example as well? So this photo here is a smartphone shot, with my iPhone using the night options in it. So, pretty high ISO, so there's some noise out there. Pretty shallow depth of field, but all I really care about is this mural. And that's kind of a little bit of the problem I have with the photo is what's really interesting, I need to crop. I don't want all of the extra stuff, the concrete and so forth. For me, I want just this mural here. Now, what do I got here? I have right now 13, almost 14 inches I could print on the long edge. That's a healthy size print. That's really good. But it's got a lot of stuff I don't want. I don't like the concrete. I don't like the right-hand side. I have a crop tool. And I grab that crop tool and let's start tugging in, let's say maybe about here on the left-hand edge. And I want more or less kind of maybe here on the right. And let's apply that. And now I'm kind of down now to 9.5. So I've lost from almost 14 inches down to 9.5 just by the crop there. Let's say I want to still make a large print. Well, let's get in at 100% so we can see everything. Right now we're at 100%. It only had a little tiny bit of zoom there. Let's go into our long edge, and let's go big or go home. If I wanted to make a 16 by 20, say. Okay, zoomed in, we're still at 100%. Things are looking really good. The eye here is nice and crisp. We take a look at before and after, especially around that eye. I mean, check out that eye before and after. I mean, that is not only maintaining detail, it's improving it. And I go to fit to screen. We can see the same thing across the board. Things are just great here. I'm ready to roll. And if I wanted to, I could sharpen. For this photo, I might not sharpen because I kind of like that it's a mural and things are a little bit soft everywhere. I might end up doing a test print of something small, see how it looks on paper, and then go with the big one to figure out that sharpening thing. But the point here with Resize AI is I can take my smartphone photos and I can make big prints from them, even after having cropped a smartphone photo. So the technology, the resizing capabilities, and this new AI model that ON1's put in, it is, in a word, impressive. So that is the first look at Resize AI from ON1. Impressive software. If you've got photos in your library that are either very aggressively cropped or older images from smaller, lower megapixel cameras, smartphone photos, and you want to make large prints, look at Resize AI. Pricing is all on ON1's website. Make sure you log into your ON1 account to get the best pricing, because you may be entitled to either a free update or a previous owner discount that you won't get unless you log into your ON1 account. And while you're at it, give my offer code a try. It might save you some extra money. I'm not sure if ON1 will honor the offer codes that are going on with this extra good pricing, but hey, it's worth a shot. Give it a try. All the links are in the show notes. Any questions, go ahead and drop them below. Hope you found the video helpful and useful, and until next time, my name's Scott Davenport. Have fun.